Hey everyone, my name is Laura and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new, and today we are doing my March reading wrap up. I honestly feel like I don't even know what I read last month. I read like 20 books and a lot of them kind of literally exited my brain as soon as they went in. I would say, struggling with my mental health last month, and it was a very busy month. I was literally somewhere every fucking weekend. So yeah, ultimately that meant that I really don't know what I read, but we're gonna go with the flow and see what happens. So the first thing I'm gonna talk about is The Runaways by Daphne Perry. I have the 5-book bind up. I really enjoyed these books. I had a great time reading these books. I think they are so fun. Definitely not my favorite Daphne Perry series, but I did enjoy it. I gave all of them 4 stars. It still had that great found family element. It follows 6 runaways that run away from their parents. They all have like quite tragic backstories, and they're trying to return this classic car to this guy that no one can find. He's like basically fallen off the face of the earth, and they're trying to find him and return the car. And the car passes off to a different girl within the group. Starts with London and then ends with one of the sisters returning it to the only guy in the group. And the last one's like probably my favorite. I genuinely really loved these. Obviously check your trigger warnings. I think this is a good series, probably not her strongest, but they are like short, quick reads, which is what I really enjoyed about them. I think these were perfect to sort of tide me over with everything else going on because they were really easy to digest. The next 2 books I'm going to talk about together, these were part of a challenge of like reading some of the books that have been my TBR for the longest time. I ended up DNFing Cersei, so if you want to hear my thoughts about that, stay tuned for the vlog that's coming for that. I don't want to get into it too much, but yeah, I DNF'd. And then I think this one, Achilles, I give 2.5 stars. Definitely is a not for me issue. I think people marketed this wrong. This is not a romance. This is a historical fiction, really based in war. The representation is elite. There is a reason that this is written. This book definitely should exist. It's just not for me. It could be down to my mood at the time, but I don't think this book was for me. I think everyone's like, oh, this is a beautiful romance. There's not a lot of romance focused on this. A lot of war discussions. Maybe I just wrong book, wrong time. But yeah, I gave it a 2.5 stars. But if you do want to pick it up, I still recommend it. If you do like sort of a historical romance, rewrite, war focused plot, I would pick it up. You may love it. I just don't think Madeline Miller's writing gels with me. In both of these books it felt more like telling rather than showing, which is probably more of the reason as to why I DNF'd it rather than the historical war elements, because I do love Greek mythology, Greek history. I do love historical romance, but it was just a lot of telling instead of showing. I had another major letdown this month, and I really am unsure if it's me, but Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. Very popular. I've had this on my physical TBR for a very long time. Fell flat. This is like a Chris Evans inspired book. The timelines were confusing. It wasn't really well written. I don't even know what I was thinking. I had a few DNFs this month. I actually had 3 DNFs this month, which is absolutely wild. But another DNF, I read most of it before I DNF'd it. Royally in Trouble by Megan Quinn. I DNF'd it. Obviously gave it 1 star. The book just dragged on for way too long. This book really didn't need to exist. I really enjoyed Royally Not Ready, but this was just flat. The plot was ridiculous. The middle of this book just was like, what the fuck is going on? It could have ended halfway. This could have been like a 200-page novella, and that was it. We didn't need this stupid, crazy subplot. It was not worth it. I would give it a skip. If you have read Royally Not Ready, just leave it at that. You don't need to continue. Some people may love it, but it just wasn't for me. I then read Not Your Pucking Girl, and I gave this 3 stars. This was okay, not for me, very juvenile, but it was okay. It was a fun read. I didn't have major issues with it, but it just wasn't for me. Another one of my DNFs though is In Your Pucking Dreams by Sheridan Ann. I made it maybe 100 pages, if that, before I went, nah, fuck this. This guy's a cunt. Like, excuse my language, but this guy's a fucking cunt. This is like a second chance. They were like high school sweethearts. She runs away in the middle of the night. They get reunited because her housemate's brother is on the hockey team with this Jackson guy. So they slept together within the first 20%, which is fine. But after they slept together, she goes, so what does this mean now? Are we back together? What does this mean for us? I don't understand. And he goes, we were never going to be fucking anything, and it was just rude. And I'm like, nah. It gave me the ick. It was silly. I have the entire series and I'm not going to read these. So these are all signed. They are not personalized. They are all signed. So if you are interested in purchasing these, let me know, because I don't need these in my collection because I'm not going to continue with this series. I continued my I Found a Barbarian binge. I listened to these all on Audible because I just think that's the easiest way. I don't think I would ever sit down and read one of these books with my eyeballs. I listened to Barbarian's Hope and Barbarian's Choice. Interesting plots. I think I gave both of them 3 stars. I went back into reading some more historical romance. I hadn't read historical romance in a while, so I listened to Bombshell by Sarah McLean. Really enjoyed these. This is like a, how do I explain this? These are like women that are badass women, feisty women. It's like a plot, really fun, really enjoyable. I like these women. They've got zest, they've got character. They're very interesting to read about. Cannot wait to continue with this series. I think they are going to be all very funny and laugh out loud, like good. I just don't remember a lot of the details. It was one of those books that kind of went in my brain and left with everything else that was going on in my life at the time. I then read Swift and Saddled. I adore Lana Sage with my whole heart and soul, if you didn't already know. But we love this book. This is a forced proximity. Loved it. 5 stars, obviously. Low stakes, really, really fun. I love all the characters. I love this. It was never going to get anything other than a 5-star. So if you haven't read the Lila Sage universe, you definitely should. They are very good, and I'm very excited for Lost and Lassoed. I think it's going to be great, and they have now been picked up for a TV series, and I think they're going to be so fun on TV. The fact that Tish Cyrus is working behind this, I think that they're going to be so much fun. I read another Devney Perry. We know I love Devney Perry, but I read her newest release, which is Blitz. I gave it 4 stars. This is a coach, like an age gap coach and athlete romance. He's not her coach though, and they met before she was an athlete at the school. They kept their relationship secret, so it wasn't too icky for me because they were their neighbors, like next door neighbors, and they met just by chance. Obviously it's college, so everyone's consenting adult. He wasn't her coach, so I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. It was a good time. Very convenient, right above the conflict, but that's fine with me. I don't mind that. I then probably read one of the best books of all time, a book that'll stick with me for the rest of my life, and that is 7 Days in June. These are 2 authors that write books for each other. They had 7 days together in June. They have very sad, tragic backstories. I loved it with my whole heart and soul. She is a single mom. If you haven't read it, please do. It's by Tia Williams. This book is utter perfection. I then read Carnage by Chantal Tessier. This is my least, not my favorite Chantal Tessier. It was just a little bit chaotic at times. It was a lot. A lot happened in this book. Went on for a while, but Carnage got a 4 stars for me. It was good. I'm definitely intrigued to see where she goes next with this universe. I do enjoy this universe, but there was just a lot happening, a lot of moving parts. You're trying to piece together everything that happens in the previous 3 books, but I still really enjoyed it. I then listened to Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring-Blake. This is my first book that I've read by her. I loved this. It was a really good time, really enjoyable, funny rom-com. It was probably like a little bit too long, but I love the long rom-com vibes. It got a 4 stars from me. Probably could easily be a 4.5. I just didn't like the conflict, and that's a common occurrence to me. I genuinely don't enjoy 3rd act breakups and 3rd act conflicts. That is my biggest gripe, because a lot of the time, like, I like my romances to be somewhat rooted in reality, and a lot of the time the conflict's just too far-fetched. Like, most adults would be able to communicate this, but a lot happens very quickly. I loved seeing the growth of all the characters. It was very good, and definitely very, like, I enjoyed it. All the characters felt like they had depth and character and were really realistic. I listened to The Silent Patient and gave it 3 stars. I don't know, it was weird. I don't know, it just wasn't for me. Definitely like kept me on my toes, kept me guessing, and I did smash it very quickly, but I wasn't wowed by what happened. I read a fan fiction this month, and this is my new favorite. I have never given a full-fledged Dramani fanfic 5 stars, and this one got a 5 stars because it deserves it. Is it perfectly executed? Absolutely not. Could it have been a little bit shorter? Absolutely yes, but you can't critique fanfiction the same way that you would critique a novel, because it is a gift. There's no editors, there's no nothing. I loved this book. I love this fanfic with my whole heart and soul. One of my favorites. The plot was intriguing and the spice was 10 out of 10. I think the only like critique that I would have is that like the main plot point was kind of forgotten for a little bit there, but I overall loved it. I loved the growth Draco did. Like, oh, he nailed it. Like, he was so good. He was tattooed. I needed more tattooed Draco. So 5 stars. I would bring him to his knees. I literally said everything about it without telling you what it's called, but bring him to his knees. It's got a sex club in it. It is so good. And then the book that I finished the month on was Mr. Spencer by T.L. Swan. Now, I was skeptical. Again, this book is way too long. My biggest critique with T.L. Swan and a lot of authors in general is that they write too much. Cut this down. It didn't need to be this long. Spencer Jones was elite. He's probably my favorite MMC that T.L. Swan's ever written. He was just so obsessed with her and wanted to protect her with his whole heart and soul. And for me, that does it for me. I'm really impressed. Really impressed with this one. The conflict was a little bit ridiculous and obviously like the plot annoying, but I expected this. Like once I started, I was like, oh, this is gonna feel like Twisted Games. So if you like Twisted Games and want something a little bit more like adulty, maybe try this. I enjoyed it. Maybe that's me. So here are some of the books that I read last month. I think that a lot of them were great. I had some hits, I had some misses. I think I just generally was not in the best headspace to be reading. I should have probably just not read, but I also can't read because it helps my mental health. So do with that information what you will. Make sure you like and subscribe because I am going to be committing to posting twice a week on my YouTube because I really enjoy the long form content. I am going to be vlogging weekly, reading vlogging again. I have been so slack with that, but I will be weekly vlogging now that I'm reading properly again and I have the time to read. Make sure you comment below what your favorite book of March was. Mine is probably going to be 7 Days in June, closely followed by Bring Him to His Knees. Both of those are really good. I need to learn how to bookbind so that I can have Bring Him to His Knees in my possession because that book was perfection. So yeah, let me know what your favorite book of March was and your least favorite book of March was. I would love to hear it, and I'll see you guys in my next monthly wrap up. Bye guys.